The Galactic Military Academy had stood for 3,000 cycles, training the finest warriors from across 700 species. Its crystalline towers pierced the purple skies of Zentara Prime, and its halls echoed with the footsteps of cadets who would one day defend the Coalition against the darkness between stars. Lisa Martinez was not supposed to be there. Humans had only recently joined the Galactic Coalition, their little blue world dismissed by most as an insignificant backwater. Earth, or as the galaxy knew it, Deathworld 437, was catalogued as one of the most hostile environments for sentient life. Crushing gravity, deadly microorganisms, predators at every turn, and an atmosphere that could rust metal in cycles. That anyone evolved there at all was considered a cosmic joke. But Lisa had scored impossibly high on the aptitude tests. Despite objections from a dozen member species, she had earned her place at the Academy. Now, 3 months into her training, she remained an outsider, a curiosity to some, a liability to others. Vindicil Kurtax was neither. The towering Krolosian stood nearly 8 feet tall, his obsidian exoskeleton gleaming under the training facility's lights. As the Academy's undefeated combat champion for 2 cycles running, Vindicil embodied everything the Coalition valued: strength, discipline, and an unwavering adherence to tradition. His species had conquered 12 systems through military might alone. The human intrigued him, though he would never admit it publicly. The incident occurred during advanced combat training, a mandatory course where cadets from different species learned to fight alongside and against one another. The exercise was simple. Cadets would spar in rotating pairs, while instructors evaluated their technique, strategy, and adaptability. Lisa had been paired with a Velethi named Sisk, a serpentine creature whose species prided itself on speed and venomous strikes. The match had been brief. Lisa's reflexes, honed by growing up in 1G gravity, were simply faster. She had won cleanly, respectfully. That should have been the end of it. But Grathvor, a hulking Morganian with pride as thick as his armored hide, had other ideas. Morganians were known throughout the galaxy as fearsome warriors, their homeworld a harsh desert planet where only the strong survived. Grath had watched the human defeat Sisk and felt something he rarely experienced: offense. The Deathworlder got lucky, Grath announced loudly, his translator device carrying his words across the training hall. Sisk is weak. Let me show this human what real combat looks like. The training hall fell silent. Instructor Zelamora, a Centaurian with forearms and centuries of military experience, raised a hand. Cadet Vor, you are not scheduled to spar with Cadet Martinez. I volunteer, Grath insisted, his fur-yellow eyes fixed on Lisa. Unless the human is afraid. Lisa stood calmly, her 5 feet 6 inches frame dwarfed by the 9-foot Morganian. She had learned in her short time at the Academy that backing down invited worse treatment. I accept. The other cadets formed a circle. Vindicil moved closer, his mandibles clicking softly, a Krolosian expression of interest. He had studied human physiology in his xenobiology courses. Deathworlders were known for unusual endurance and pain tolerance. But against a Morganian's superior size and strength, the human stood little chance. Grath charged immediately, foregoing all pretense of technique. He swung a massive fist toward Lisa's head, confident the match would end in seconds. It did end in seconds, but not the way anyone expected. Lisa sidestepped the telegraphed punch with minimal movement, her combat boots barely scuffing the floor. As Grath's momentum carried him forward, she pivoted on her back foot, rotated her hips, and drove her right fist into the Morganian's exposed ribcage. The sound echoed through the training hall like a thunderclap. Grath's armored exoskeleton capable of withstanding plasma rounds cracked audibly. The Morganian's eyes went wide as every ounce of air left his lungs. He stumbled backward 3 steps, dropped to one knee, and collapsed face first onto the training mat. The silence that followed was absolute. Lisa stood over her opponent, breathing steadily, her knuckles slightly reddened, but otherwise unmarked. She looked down at Grath with an expression of mild concern. Is he okay? Instructor Zelamora moved forward with 2 arms raised in shock, and 2 lowered in what might have been respect. Medical drones descended from the ceiling, scanning the unconscious Morganian. Around the circle, Cadets from a dozen species stared at the human with something between fear and awe. Vin Diesel felt his respiratory spiracles contract, the Krolosian equivalent of breath, catching in one's throat. He had fought Morganians before. They were formidable opponents even for someone of his skill. Yet this small human, barely half Grath's mass, had felled him with a single strike. How? The word escaped Vin Diesel's translator before he could stop himself. Lisa turned toward him. Noticing the Krolosian champion for the first time, she shrugged, a gesture that meant nothing to most species, but spoke volumes to those who had studied human behavior. Earth is 1G, most training worlds are 0, 7G or lower. Everything here feels lighter. It was such a simple explanation. Yet the implications rippled through the academy like shockwaves. The instructors began testing human capabilities more rigorously. They discovered that what Lisa had demonstrated wasn't exceptional by human standards, it was average. Every human carried the evolutionary baggage of surviving on a death world: denser bones, stronger muscles, cardiovascular systems that could sustain effort that would kill most species. Within a cycle, the Academy's combat curriculum was revised. Human fighting techniques were studied and integrated. Exchange programs with Earth's military academies were established. The Galactic Coalition began to understand what it meant to have Death Worlders as allies. Vin Diesel requested Lisa as a sparring partner. She agreed. They fought to a draw 3 times before he managed his first victory, achievement he wore with more pride than any of his previous championships. Grathvor recovered fully, his pride wounded worse than his ribs. He never challenged a human again, but in time became one of their staunchest advocates in the Academy. As for Lisa, she graduated top of her class 2 cycles later, but the Academy never forgot the day when one punch from a Death Worlder changed everything they thought they knew about strength, power, and what it meant to be a warrior in the vast galaxy. Sometimes the smallest humans cast the longest shadows.